but I was there the morning
Okay,
after
thanks.
to help serve breakfast.
Okay, so it is 5:15 on Wednesday, January 29th. So I'm going to call to order this meeting of the New Ulm Human Rights Commission. The first order of business is membership. So we have three new members actually. So welcome to our members, Carl Ziedler. Am I pronouncing that correctly? How do you say it? Seidler. Okay, and Deb Eglin?
Yes.
Okay. And then our student commissioner Henry Albrecht. So welcome to the commission. We appreciate you volunteering to serve. Just wondering if you want to say just a word or two about yourselves and then why you decided to join the commission. We'll just start with Deb and kind of go down.
I'm fairly new to New Ulm, and so I'm still learning the ropes in a lot of the different areas here. And I thought the Human Rights Commission was one that I would connect with.
Thank you.
My name is Henry Albrecht. I'm a junior at New Ulm Public, and I thought it would be important to help in my community, and I think it's really important to know about, I think I enjoy learning about human rights, and I think it's an important topic.
Thank you. Carl?
Well, in contrast, I'm kind of old to the community. And I came off another board recently, and a good friend of mine had been on this board, and I thought it would be a very interesting and worthwhile place to serve the community.
Awesome. Well, welcome again to all of you, and thank you. And then also a thank you to our outgoing member, Casey McMullen, who is no longer with us. She was vice chair and just chose to resign just due to just lack of time to commit to this. So we appreciate her service and thank her. Next order of business is the election of officers. So we did the election of the vice chair. Casey was the vice chair, and then she's no longer on the commission. And then we motioned to elect Katie at the last meeting, but she was not here. So we just want to revisit that to see if she would like to accept or deny the nomination.
I had a feeling, and I am willing to accept the nomination as vice chair.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Next item is approval of minutes from the 12:30 meeting. So if you'll click on your attachment, you can review them, and I'll just take a minute to review and let me know if you have questions or comments or changes needed to the minutes. Does anybody, as they're reviewing them, have any questions or comments at all? And if there's no questions, comments, or changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
A second.
Second.
All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Next is just a review of the budget report. So we have 2024 and then the new 2025 one here. There were no changes to the 2024. It was as we reviewed it at the last meeting. I might have to follow up with Lisa. We did ask to have this rolled over into 2025, and I never heard back from her, so I'll just double check on that. But then we do have the 2025 budget, which we don't have anything. It's attached. And the budget for 2025 is $6,050, and we don't have anything out of that yet, as it's the beginning of the year. Does anybody have any questions about the budget? Okay, we don't need a motion on that since it's just a review. So then the events committee report, what we have on our events committee is the Human Rights Award. So we extended the deadline to January 24th, and we did receive 2 nominations. And we actually received 3 nominations, 2 for the same organization. So I'll just go through the nominations. So the first one is a nomination for Jeannie Hinsman, and she was nominated by Bernice Schmitz, Mary Kluge, Vicky Sieve, and Peg Sundell. And I'll just read through the nomination. Jeannie had an interest in fair trade products handcrafted by artisans in developing countries. She decided to open a shop in New Ulm. She ordered products from purchasing companies that operate on the principles of fair working conditions, no discrimination in hiring, and no child labor. Jeannie found a shop location and in May 2017 opened New Ulm Zone. The shop is run by volunteers. Profits from the shop have been donated to Numas House, Ivy House, Westridge Place, Pro Kinship, and Brown County Foster Care. Jeannie also worked with a group from Nora Unitarian Church to sponsor a family from Ukraine. This entailed hours of paperwork with the immigration department. She also worked on raising funds, securing housing, locating furniture in a car, finding employment, and help with enrolling their son in school. Human rights is definitely part of Jeannie's moral compass. So that is our first nomination. Second nomination is from Heather Bregel, and she's nominating the host committee of the Makota Reconciliation and Healing Riders. This committee played an instrumental role in welcoming the Makota Reconciliation and Healing Riders to New Ulm by arranging meals and lodging for the riders and their horses. Because of their efforts, the riders spent 2 nights in New Ulm for the first time. The host committee exemplifies the principles of human rights by addressing historical wrongs and advancing healing within the community of New Ulm and beyond. Their work emphasizes the importance of acknowledging past injustices as a step towards building a more equitable future. By collaborating with Dakota communities and promoting cultural exchange, the committee has built bridges of trust and mutual respect. These efforts encourage healing and a sense of shared humanity. This act of reconciliation aims to heal deep historical wounds. And then our third nomination, submitted by Eileen Campbell, also for the New Ulm Hosting Committee for the Makota Reconciliation Healing Horse Ride, because a chance meeting at a monument in South Dakota between Colleen Hawkinson and a native elder resulted in a conversation that created an opportunity for healing, both for the people of New Ulm and a new generation of Native youth. This one human interaction, one person willing to speak their story and another willing to listen, illustrates the power of individuals to understand how our human rights are all interconnected. The New Ulm Hosting Committee for the Makota Reconciliation and Healing Horse Ride was born of this conversation. A group of individuals spearheaded the formation of a committee that formed quickly and worked tirelessly over a short period of time to ensure the invitation for the Makota riders to stay in New Ulm during the ride from South Dakota to Mankato in December would be an experience of extravagant safety and hospitality. In the past, the Reconciliation Riders have not stayed in New Ulm overnight due to the historical trauma experienced in New Ulm by their ancestors harkening back to the Dakota conflict. The community went above and beyond to heal this trauma. They reached out to numerous organizations to be sure that the riders had what they needed to assure comfort and welcome. Mattresses to sleep on at night, great food prepared by Turner Hall, safe sleeping quarters and security at Turtle Hall, fresh hay and water and safekeeping for their horses at night. Transportation, snacks, parade licenses are just a few examples of their attention to every detail. By involving so many individuals and organizations, the committee brought healing not only to the riders, but to the citizens of New Ulm, as well as they volunteered their time, money, showed up for a movie about the history of the ride, and lined the streets of New Ulm when the riders came through town on their horses. After the ride concluded, the participants, both Native people and New Ulm citizenry, expressed gratitude for the experience the committee provided to promote healing. This committee deserves recognition for the hard work, commitment, and compassion displayed in envisioning the healing that could come from extravagant hospitality. So those are our 3 nominations. Just for background for our new members, we have a Human Rights Award every year. We didn't get any nominations with our previous deadline, which was around Christmas time and the holidays, so we extended it and we got these nominations. So what we do is we choose a recipient of the award, and then we host a little ceremony a little bit later in the year and present that award. The journal usually covers it, and then we display give them a copy of the award, and then they go on the plaque here. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
These are amazing nominations. Have we ever chosen more than one? Because honestly, they're so different, but both really impactful. You know, a very short-term, quick acting committee, and then a very long commitment to human rights in New Ulm. So I would really struggle choosing one of these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you summed it up well. Those were some really great submissions, and we're lucky to have more than one. You know, sometimes we don't get that many.
And I think it's nice to think about the fact that one is short-term, a one-time, a year type thing, and the other one is a long-term commitment. And I think it's nice to exemplify the fact that you can do both. I mean, that they're both
Well said.
reasonable and good things to do. So I would also support the doing two if that's a possibility.
I don't know that there would be a reason that we couldn't do two. Mayor, do you have any idea? I know I'm looking at you. I do not. There's not a monetary award. There's just the plaque that comes out of our budget. So it's not like we would only,
Yeah.
be going super above the budget or anything. So I don't know that. Let me just check the bylaws because they're right here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the cost of the plaque is not.
It's
It
not.
is about
It's
100
minimal.
and something on last year's budget.
We'd
so-
probably have to have a motion to do two, and then we could probably. But let me just see if it limits it in the bylaws.
Okay.
It does not. So I think we would be fine if there was perhaps a motion.
I would motion, entertain a motion to award both nominees with a Human Rights Award based on these great applications or nominations.
Second.
All right, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So that motion passes, and we will award both nominees the award this year, which will be exciting.
It'll make
yeah.
our ceremony a little more fun too, to have some more
Yeah.
attendees, hopefully.
Absolutely. And once we kind of get down to subcommittees, we can talk about, like, that will be the first thing on one of the subcommittees' agendas to plan that ceremony. And then I will reach out to the groups or to the nominees and let them know that they have received this award.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
would you like these ballots completed with both checked, or would you just like us to return the blank ballots to you?
We can just return them since we voted on it. Good question. Thank you. Okay. So then we're down to other business. So we did have, we added discussion of immigration concerns as one of the first items on other business. We did have a member of the community write an email to Sarah and myself, just wanting to discuss concerns coming of the executive orders that have come out of the new administration, and is there anything we can do to support? Her name is Teresa. She's not here, but we can still have a discussion of it. So her ask was, is there anything the Human Rights Commission can do as a support to maybe the schools or anybody in the community if there's concern? Kind of that. Does that pretty much cover it, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of tension right now around kind of what's going on with the immigration. Just a lot of reports of people being nervous about what's going to happen. Her suggestion was, could we offer education or like a space for people to get together to discuss? So those are kind of what our options are. We can't make any organization or anybody do anything, but we certainly can offer a discussion or education or a safe space or anything like that for the discussion.
As a new member or new resident in New Ulm Fairleigh, do we have immigrants?
We do, yes.
Okay. Have they been here a while, or are they relatively new?
I would say there's a
over the-
mix, yeah.
yeah,
There's
all over
definitely
the
a
board.
mix.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
people who've been here long term, and yeah, absolutely.
I think that we could, if we could, like if we had someone that was well versed in this, we could maybe do some education on what is, like, what are the things that have been passed or signed or whatever in, federally, because a lot of these things, a lot of anxiety can be misunderstanding, and maybe some of it's warranted, but I think that's an objective place to start. Just like what's actually true.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what resource, like who the best resource would be that we could engage maybe within the city or the community that would be able to help us with that information. We certainly could offer, like if we could find some resources, just like an open forum for people to kind of come speak and learn. We always have the option of using the community center if we wanted to set something up, because that's free since we're a commission.
Yeah, I think also maybe part of that discussion would be what are immigrants' rights? Should, their status be questioned, or whether rightfully or not, whether they're here, documented or not documented, what are their rights? And if we could bring some sort of legal expert on that could be helpful.
I see you sitting in the audience, and I wonder if you might have any possible insight.
Yes, I'd love some.
Chair Springer, members of the Human Rights Commission. My name is Dave Borkert. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of New Ulm. I've obviously heard the discussion. One agency that I always use for a resource, and I would think at the very minimum they would probably consider sending someone, or otherwise at least like a remote presence, would be League of Minnesota Cities. And they have subject matter expertise, regarding, that's who I reach out to if there's a specific question. I certainly reach out to our own legal counsel, our city attorney. A lot of times, in addition to that, a lot of times it's a three-way conversation where we'll reach out to the League of Minnesota Cities. So they simply have that kind of expertise and on board. And I mean, I can certainly try to, I watch probably the same television and podcasts and so on and so forth. You always get a lot of individuals online that claim to be experts at different things. And I mean, I'm very confident a lot of times it's error or just a misunderstanding. As far as enforcement, like with immigration, from a local standpoint, we have never, when I'm talking about local police, local law enforcement, we never locally do, when they say raids or something like that, that all of this, even as far as identifying if someone is undocumented, that's realistically the federal authority. We don't, certainly stop the federal. I mean, they're federal law enforcement, but and they certainly have jurisdiction. If we would arrest someone where I see a potential situation where something like this could come up, and I'm just trying to think of examples. If we're enforcing a traffic stop or arresting someone on a misdemeanor or something like that, we have disorderly conduct. And again, these are just things that are jumping out. But it could be any misdemeanor, something that we would consider where we'd have to normally would take someone into custody. When if we believe someone is undocumented, we just simply report our findings or our observation to the prosecuting attorney, and then ultimately the judge through that process. Now, it hasn't come up recently. I believe it's still the same practice where, the judge just simply determines what the bail should be set at. Because, bail is just a promise to return and some security involved with that. So I know historically they used to double bail. If the findings indicated that person wasn't documented. But again, as far as us doing any type of enforcement actions, organized enforcement actions, we simply don't at the local level. And if the feds are coming into town or coming into the area, and that's happened in my career. I've been here now 25 years. In fact, I just got my plaque today.
Congratulations.
We just had an award presentation. But I've been here 25 years. I can think of 4 times that ICE came in. And, when they come in, they'll give us notification. They'll say, we're coming here. And that normally it's for all local law enforcement. But we're certainly notified. The sheriff is notified as well. And they're just simply saying, we're in town. We're doing some enforcement actions. We're legitimate law enforcement. We're federal agents. Because we never want to have, it's called deconfliction. We don't want to have some type of crossfire or something like that. If you're in a situation, it's is this person, running from, someone's going to try to kidnap them. I mean, I don't know if that's the best example, but in a situation like that, we don't want to have it where law enforcement, and that sometimes happens with narcotic enforcement because you're dealing with undercover officers, and sometimes it's like the one undercover doesn't know the other person is a law enforcement officer. They think it's, part of the narcotic enforcement. So we're very careful within and it's even gotten a little bit more care on it within the last decade. So I don't know if that answered anything or if it just made it more confusing.
No, I think that was very helpful information. It makes it just a little bit clearer of like resources we might have and just explaining the process, because I feel like it's very unclear and you hear a lot and you don't know what's true and what's not true. So I think that was very, very helpful. Does anybody have any additional questions for Chief Borchert?
Madam Chair, I think also an additional resource to the two that Chief Forkert mentioned might be the Legal Aid Society, Mankato. They may have an attorney that focuses on immigration issues.
Okay, I'll add that to my list. Thank you. Other questions at all?
Another possible resource, we always deal with the League of Minnesota Cities, but another one is Association of Minnesota Counties. It's kind of the parallel, but they serve like counties, but we're all in a county. But they also, and a lot of times they'll do things like jointly. They sometimes even, like if they have to bring in a special speaker, someone with some higher level, some, subject matter expertise, they'll sometimes even share that resource because they serve the same communities.
Okay. That gives us a good list to go off of for sure. Thank you.
Well, thank you for everything all of you do, and thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you for informing us.
Yeah, I think this should stay on our agenda, just because there is legislation, not in Minnesota, but in other states, starting out right now, incentivizing bounty hunters to find people that they believe are here illegally and are being, paid for that. So, we just need to keep watching for something like that here. Again, that's not happening in Minnesota, but there are at least 2 states I know of where that is happening, at least discussions of legislation. So I don't want this to fall off our sites, because it's been 2 weeks of new administration, not even, and a lot has happened. A lot is changing by the day. I think there's been even some announcements today that are troublesome. So I would like us to keep considering this.
One thing I could do, we probably need a motion. I could look into these resources and just see what do they have available, what kind of lead time do they need, if we'd like to organize something and just come back to the next meeting with that. I could reach out to all 4 that we've been given and just kind of see what the possibilities are. And then if it's something we want to pursue, maybe we could try and hold some sort of educational event. That's one possibility. Or if anybody else has other thoughts, I'm open to any ideas.
I think an educational event would be useful, because I think a lot of people are confused.
Yeah, understandably so.
Yeah.
Would there be a motion on exploring an educational event?
I make a motion to explore an educational event on immigration.
I'll second.
Okay, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. I will reach out to all 4 of these organizations as well, and then just kind of see what kind of resources they have and how much lead time they have, kind of all those details, and then I'll bring that back to the next meeting as well. The next item is a community needs survey. I'm still working on a press release. I promise I will have that done by the next meeting. I just have not finished it yet. So we have for those of you that are new, we have a community needs survey that we started using with our events last summer, and it just has some basic questions to the community of what kind of human rights issues should we be looking at, or are you concerned about, or we could offer educational events or speakers on. And we did get some responses, but not a ton. So we're just looking at promoting it, because the more information we can gather from the community, we feel like the more effective we can be kind of as we move on as a commission. So the thought is we will do a press release with a link to the survey and just encourage people to submit responses that we can then review as a commission. Any other questions on that? Okay, the next item is a community supporting family well-being event. So there is some information attached. So this is from Brown County. And it's an event sponsorship opportunity. I read it this afternoon, so I just have to remind myself. So in celebration of the Family Wellbeing and Child Abuse Prevention Month, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families is sponsoring events across the state to advance family well-being. The theme this year is community supporting, with a focus on events that include the whole family, foster social and community connections, and increase access to resources. It's just informational, but there's criteria for sponsorship. So we would meet the criteria for an organization that could ask for sponsorship. They're available from $1,000 to $5,000 per organization, available for approximately 20 organizations. And then the point would be that we would host an event using the sponsorship that would fall under the celebration for the Family and Wellbeing and Child Abuse Prevention Month. And the event would have to happen in April. I believe it's April.
Yeah.
Sponsorship notices will be sent by March. It's due by January 31st. So they just sent this to us as an FYI in case we would be interested in applying for a sponsorship. Yeah.
Coming up.
Due Friday. Okay. Hey, we've done this before, right?
We work pretty good under pressure, actually. So it's just an informational thing we just brought to the agenda just to see if it's something we want to look into. If we're feeling like it's too close to submit a request, that's completely fine as well. Thoughts from the commissioners?
Is this something that happens every year?
This is the first time I've seen it. So I'm not sure if it happens every year and we just haven't got notification before, but this is the first time it's been brought to the commission since I've been here. So the last 4 years, this is the first time I've seen it.
So, which of these events do we do that would help us win the award?
So I feel like it would have to be, like, this kind of brings to mind the welcoming event, which we already have coming up and obviously would be later in the year. We don't have an event that we currently hold that would meet this criteria. So it would be a new event. So it would be,
The welcoming event is the only one I can really think of.
Yeah.
Could we do something like the welcoming event at, say, maybe we use the grant money to rent out party room at Vogel or the gym at Vogel, some pool passes or something like that? It sounds like we also would have to have, it says increase access to resources. So we could call some of our community partners that were maybe missed the welcoming event, or I don't know, we had a couple people there from some community organizations. I don't know if something like that. I mean, one thing we talked about last year after the welcoming event was like, hey, we need to do more of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this seems like a good opportunity. We have a great resource with the rec center.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It would be easy. I mean,
Right, the supplies are already there. It would just be pulling together the logistics.
yeah, and if we could, the first step would be to apply for the sponsorship. So
Who took on our application for the welcoming event last time?
that came through the city council. So they already had the grant when
Oh,
they
so there
got the
wasn't
grant, and
really
then no,
much
we
that
just they
needed to
gave it
be-
to us, the
Sure.
commission, because they had received it and thought the commission would be a good place to use it. So we actually didn't apply for it; it was
Okay.
given to us.
But we had a deadline to use it.
Yes,
by.
we had to
I mean, we
use
still
it.
were under.
Yeah,
under
we
the
had to
crunch.
use it by that week in September.
Okay, so I'm looking at the request form. So it doesn't look terribly, it's a lot of demographic information, the organization type, a brief description of the organization. If they feel like we already have that.
Yep.
Honestly, it doesn't seem too
Too in depth.
in depth of a application process.
Do I hear a one?
I
You wanna
motion that
consider- we could fill it out.
that we apply for this grant. I don't know who is going to be the person completing it, but
I could complete it.
I'm happy to help
Yeah.
too.
We
I
can
don't know.
tackle it. So, is that a motion?
Yeah, so I make a motion to apply for this grant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
wondering if part of the grant issue might be the amount we would be seeking in the grant based upon what costs we might incur, and that would dictate what events or activities we could sponsor and provide, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. I wonder if we could just do I could call the rec center
See what
and
they
we could
would-
just see, like, what would it cost? Say we wanted to rent it out for a portion of a day
Yeah,
and just get an estimate that way and go from there.
and build the budget from there. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the range, so it says the range is $1,000 to $5,000. I think if we put together a pretty informed budget, which, like you said, shouldn't be too hard to do, hopefully we can get enough to fund it. If we have a differential, then then we have a problem. I mean, we do have some residual funds from last year.
That's true.
We
Yes.
could decide, that would be a good use of it. Should that need to happen?
Maybe you and I could touch base, and then between me and you today and tomorrow, probably tomorrow, we could try and gather some info and then submit the sponsorship form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless anyone else wants to. I don't.
Okay. And then the next item is the annual committee appointments. So we always have committees, subcommittees on the commission. We have a few options this year. We've always had an events committee, an education committee, an executive committee, and a public relations committee. We'll talk about public relations also when we get down to the bylaws, but we've kind of found over the years that the education committee has a lot less than the events committee. As we've added events, the events committee has gotten a lot of work added onto it. So we came up with 3 different options this year for how to break out the subcommittees. So the first option, oh, she have them laid out here. So the first option would be to just keep it as is. We'd have an executive committee. The executive committee is the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. So that's already decided. And then we'd have an events committee, an education committee, and a public relations committee. We'll circle back to public relations. We're not sure if we still need that committee. We left it last year. We didn't utilize it at all, but it's in the bylaws. So in lieu of changing the bylaws, we just kept the committee and then we just didn't utilize it. So that's something that we'll have to discuss when we get back to the bylaws. The second option, and they're listed here as well, is taking the events committee and splitting it out by having more subcommittees. So there'd be an executive committee, an education committee, possibly a public relations committee, and then each event would have its own subcommittee. So people would be on more than one subcommittee, but it would be more evenly spread. So the same few people wouldn't have to do all of the events. And we have those broken out in 2 different ways. So option B is just each event on its own, and then option C is a group of events. So there's a subcommittee with Bavarian Blast, New Ulm Night Out, and Brown County Fair, and then a subcommittee with the Human Rights Award, the Pride Fest, Welcoming Week, and the Makota Reconciliation and Healing Horse Ride, and then also an education committee. So we just have to decide which option, we have a discussion and decide which option we'd like to use this year, and then assign committee members. Go ahead.
Could you explain what each committee actually does?
Yeah, so the events committee historically has taken care of kind of planning all of the events that we're involved with. So historically, we've done National Night Out, and a lot of these fall in the same time frame, so in the summer months. So it's kind of heavy June, July, August, September. So it's gotten to be kind of a lot of events. So we do National Night Out, so we have a table there. We have a table at the Brown County Fair. We participate in the Bavarian Blast Parade. We have the Human Rights Award ceremony. We participate in the Mankato Pride Fest Parade and Festival. We have the Welcoming Week event, which is new last year, but we plan on doing this year. So it's an event to just welcome all sorts of different people and try and have activities. Our first year was last year, so it's kind of, we envision it to grow a little bit this year. We threw it together kind of last minute. And then we were planning on participating in the Healing Horse Ride again, coming up in this next year, which would also be new. So we kind of started out when I was on the commission. We had 3 events. 4 main events, but now we've just expanded the number of events that we've had, and it's just gotten to be a lot for one committee to handle. Not that we couldn't do it, it's just Lisa kind of reached out to me and said, should we think about splitting this up so it's just a little bit more even? That being said, the more subcommittees we have, the more you would be on. Normally, when we had just the executive events and education, you were just on one committee. Whereas if we split it out, you might be on a couple. If that makes sense.
Do you see the reconciliation ride, our role in that being part of like there was this committee that put this together. Do you see us doing all of that or just part of it?
I would envision we would probably engage that committee and see how
Okay.
we could be helpful. I wouldn't envision us
Okay,
taking
just
over a
checking.
different piece of it or taking
Okay.
over it because there's already a committee involved. But we
Right.
just wanted to offer our help with the event next year.
Okay.
Yep.
I like my favorite is option C, but
I
that
agree.
means little. But just my opinion. Just the reason why I like it is because like for example, the way it's broken out here, Bavarian Blast, New Ulm Night Out, Brown Kind of Fair, and honestly, you could probably throw Pride Fest up there. It's kind of similar. So you're thinking about banners, you're thinking about candy that you're giving out, you're thinking about stickers and like giveaway things. So all kind of the same stuff that you're recycling, that you're responsible for. So kind of similar stuff. Looking for people to walk in the parade or whatever, or to man the booth, you know? And then the Human Rights Award, the Welcoming Week, and the Reconciliation and Healing Horse Ride are different, all different from each other, and then all different from the last bunch. So I think that that grouping could make sense and could decrease the amount of like committees that you'd have to be on in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And one note too, so just because the event committee like plans the events, we ask for everybody to help, and if you can, you can, and if you can't, you can't. So that doesn't mean like who's ever on the events committee for the parade. It doesn't mean nobody else would walk in the parade. We would invite every commissioner and, you know, additional people to help, but just the planning portion of it. So, but yeah, I like, that's a good point of they're kind of grouped in a similar way.
Agreed.
It's sort of the events that we are involved in versus the events that we host, I think is
Yeah,
kind of the
that's a good way to-
difference there, yeah.
Good way to explain it. Yeah, I agree with that. And then the Public Relations Committee really kind of rolls into those events. I mean, a lot of our public relations involves publicizing these events that we're that we're having, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that, like I said, we didn't separately use the Public Relations Committee last year, but we didn't remove it because it was in the bylaws. And so we tabled it to this, just kept it in this year when we review the bylaws, which is also on the agenda.
Okay.
We'll talk about whether or not we're going to keep that Public
Okay.
Relations Committee. It was a lot of like responding to letters to editor and things like that. And it's really, we haven't had as much of that recently. And so that's kind of where that came from. The Public Relations was not always a committee. It was added, and then now we're kind of in discussion of, do we really need it? But separate from
Got it.
deciding. Other thoughts on how to split out the subcommittees?
I think Obehi's proposal with just moving that one event on option C makes a lot of sense.
Any other preferences or discussion? Do I have a motion of any sort on this?
I would make a motion to go with option C, while moving the Pride event up to the second, or the first subcommittee for events.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. So I do have then option C. Lisa printed it out for us. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of pass it down and everybody, we can sign up. And then the rule is members can serve on more than one committee, but no more than 4 voting members can be on a committee. So executive committee, like I said, is myself, Katie, and Allie. And then there's 4 spots plus a youth representative on event subcommittee 1. 4 spots plus a youth representative on subcommittee 2, and then the education committee, which I did not touch base. Sorry, I did not answer your question on that. The event or education committee, we've always done a poster and essay contest, and they've run that. We've had trouble with it the last couple of years, so it is on our agenda this year to look at what we can do differently. In the past couple of years, 2 years ago, we didn't have any entries, and last year we just had 1. So kind of unclear for sure what the education committee will look like this year, because we would like to look at what we have done and what we can maybe do in the future to get more engagement from youth. So
And it's not restricted just to youth
No.
education.
Yes.
It really
Yeah.
can be community
Yeah.
education.
But that's
And-
just historically
Right.
the one thing
Ye-
that the education
yes,
committee has
yes.
done. So, and like, even as we're talking about an event such
Exactly,
as
that'd be
educating
education.
on the immigration,
Mhm.
that would be something that the education committee could take on as well. So yes. That one's a little bit more kind of whatever comes up versus set events that we've historically participated in. So we'll pass this down. We'll maybe start down there and just kind of pass it down, and you guys can just sign up kind of for the preference, the committee you prefer. So then the next two things are annual review of our mission statement and annual review of the bylaws. So we brought them here to review. Then the next thing that will happen is the executive committee will review them as well and bring any changes to the next meeting. So our mission statement is to secure for all individuals, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, disability, public assistance, age, sexual orientation, gender identity, familial status, and any other protected class, equal opportunity to employment, housing, public accommodations, public service, and education, and to secure full participation in the affairs of this community by assisting the State Department of Human Rights and by advising the city on long-range programs to improve human relations in the city. So that is the current mission statement of the Human Rights Commission. Any discussion on that or questions? All right, and then the bylaws are also attached. So these are our bylaws. So we review that annually. I can let you guys just kind of review it. So the executive committee will go ahead and review this and submit any changes. The one thing that we had discussed previously is, again, that public relations committee. So the public relations committee shall compose communications for publication in response to local issues, including but not limited to events, articles, and letters to the editor with the purpose of timely responses by the commission, as well as providing periodic information to local news outlets regarding the New Ulm Human Rights Commission. So that is the statement about the Public Relations Committee. I don't think we've done anything official as a Public Relations Committee in the last couple of years. So that's why that's just a question of, do we need to continue that committee or not?
That's where I think you could, the press releases and that kind of thing that would come with your events planning. That's something events could probably take on easily enough.
Could also be education. I mean, and in any of the things we're doing, that committee could just put forth something.
I kind of retract my earlier statement and say that I can foresee more use of this committee going forward than we've needed in the past couple of years. I think it could be, just an as needed, not, yeah. I guess that's always how it's operated, is as needed, but.
And we certainly can keep it. We just wanted to bring the discussion here before we reviewed the bylaws to just see what
Yeah.
people were thinking.
Thinking through it more, I actually would not favor removing it.
I'm wondering if you should consider language change. We had the conversation, I think it was a year ago, about the response to a letter to the editor, and that needed to go to city council.
Correct.
If it's representing the opinion of the city, as opposed to this commission speaking on behalf of the city without consideration going through the city council. So I'm wondering if that could be just a
Added.
recommendation to the city as opposed to responding with a letter to the editor.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I might add that perhaps it could be part of the duties and function of the executive committee, because I suspect some of those issues that may come up, that would be
And I can't remember the exact. I was on the commission before there was a public relations, and then it was the executive committee at that time that was doing it, and I cannot quite remember why we decided to go with. I don't think anybody else was on the commission. So that is the previous, like what we did previously, Carl. So, I mean, that also makes sense. That there's an outlet and a way for us to do that. And then again, just instead of, I think, we were outright writing letters to the editor, and that got kind of a sticky situation because we're really supposed to be advising the city council. So then we didn't respond anymore, and we were just, but we didn't lay that out in the bylaws.
maybe something that the city attorney could help develop some language for the bylaws to incorporate it, perhaps within the executive committee or some other change to it, if you'd like.
Okay. Any other feedback?
Well, just to reiterate, I think it makes sense that you are out there with public relations, promoting the events and making community aware. And also if there's articles of information to pass on, like let's say from the state human rights level, so those would be some changes I would recommend, and then also removing the letters to the editor.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? So I will have Lisa reach out to the executive committee to set up a meeting so that we can review these before the next official meeting in the HRC. Legislative update. I don't have anything. I actually kind of just dug through kind of the bills that have been proposed in the Minnesota legislature today. I didn't see anything that's like forthcoming immediately. There's a few human rights bills that they had just had the first reading of, but I don't have anything specific pertaining to human rights at the Minnesota legislature right now that I think pertain to us. I'm just trying to review them every month before the meeting to see if there's anything coming up that's going to be passed or that's a concern. And I haven't seen anything. I don't know if anybody else has seen anything. Like I said, I just kind of dug through the categories and I kind of hit human rights and human services and stuff, and I didn't see anything pressing right now.
This isn't exactly legislature, and I think it kind of goes with the first topic we talked about with the immigration concerns. But I have noticed, since the new administration, a lot of big companies walking back their DEI programs, and then also saying that they're no longer going to report to the HRC anymore. And so it doesn't affect us locally. I don't know what that does for HRC as a whole, in terms of how we can achieve our mission if we're not able to work in that capacity, and how we can protect like workers if corporations are refusing to engage. And so I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not even sure why this is happening. I guess DEI has gotten a bad rap and been heavily politicized, so now people are just walking away from it. So that's sort of concerning, and I don't really know what to make of it.
It is. Like as I was reading the mission statement, I kind of felt like this is literally our mission statement.
Right.
Things that are being walked back by companies. So it is a little bit heartbreaking, because human rights are rights for everybody, and it shouldn't be politicized. And it's not about politics. It's about just ensuring that everybody has equal rights. And so it is unfortunate, and I don't know what. I think we just need to keep our eyes open and see how we can support. But I agree.
And we can always direct people to fill out the human rights complaint form on the
Correct.
state webpage, and they, do have the authority to look into that, but we really don't, other than working with organizations directly or the city directly, I guess.
That's an excellent reminder for people. So if people are, coming to us as committee members or commission members, we can always
Refer them to
encourage
that.
them if there's a human rights violation to definitely report it to the state human rights commission.
Would we be able to, I'm just not sure of procedure here, would we be able to add a link to that in our minutes,
I can ask.
so that we all remember that we have access, and since our minutes are public, people could
idea.
find it. It wouldn't be the most expedient way to find it, but we would always kind of know that it's there. It's
I'll ask
it's
Lisa.
easy enough to Google, but
I'll ask Lisa.
thank you.
Anything else? So then our city council liaison. So for new members, we have a city council liaison for a quarter. So they listen to the city council meetings and just bring anything that pertains to human rights or the commission to our meeting. So for this January, February, March, it's Allie.
I broke my phone this last week and I missed my notification to do so. So I did not watch the meeting.
Okay, Totally fine. Next month.
Yes.
Was there anything, Mayor, off the top of your head that, okay,
I'm not aware of anything.
perfect. So then that brings us to the date of our next meeting. So the date of the next regularly scheduled meeting is Monday, February 24th. Again, meetings are every fourth Monday. We just moved it this week because we had a conflict. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All approve, say aye. Same sign. That motion passes and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.